Hey, how's it going? This is Brandon Peterson again for another Tech Biz tutorial. Doing a little bit of game design using Construct 2. Construct 2 you can get from Scirra.com. I don't know that Construct 2 is really supported anymore. I just have the paid version of Construct 2. There was a free version of it too, but I had the paid version. And so that's kind of what I use. There is a Construct 3. I believe it's browser based, and you can use it anywhere, but it's a monthly subscription, but then it's always updated. So they're kind of moving more to that, and I think they're not going to be, unfortunately, supporting Construct 2. But pretty much all of these concepts from what I've seen of Construct 2 will work with Construct 3. Construct 2 is just a 2D simple game creating engine that's real easy to use, and we use it kind of towards the end of some of our classes where I teach when we want to do a little bit of game design and we don't have a lot of time to dive into learning a whole engine, so we can kind of do some concepts of game design in our classes. We use it a little bit more in our programming class, but we give some students a little bit of time to play around with it in other classes too towards the end of the term if we have a few days left to use up. So here's what we have. This is Construct 2, like I said. And today was the day that was supposed to be the Kentucky Derby, and it got postponed. And so last night, I thought it would be fun, kind of last minute, to make a little horse racing simulator. So this is just the starter one. I did like it quite a lot, and I'm going to play around with it and kind of add some things to it. But I wanted to kind of show you, I don't know, this is kind of a demonstration of how it's used, and also it's kind of I guess tutorial, because I'll explain a few things. Using this, if you've never used Construct 2 and you're watching this, you'll probably pick up some things. This is probably better if you've at least watched an intro to Construct 2 tutorial before. But if not, it's still may be worth your time. So, like I said, I wanted to make a horse racing simulator. I thought that would be cool. So here's what we have. I'm gonna start here on the top right hand layers panel here, and I'm gonna start with layer 0. So you could see the track is basically just a tiled sprite, and it has a repeating dirt pattern on there. And I covered the whole ground with it. That's my layer 1. That's the only thing that's on there. You can see down here in the objects I have track. Layer 1 then is just is this border, and I was gonna make it be like a solid to where the horses couldn't go across the border, but the way I wrote it, it wasn't important that it had to be something that they would collide with. Later on it will, so I essentially just made a tiled sprite border, and I went ahead and just copied and pasted and made the shape of the track. Wanted it to be kind of a pixel style, 8-bit kind of style, so we don't have the perfectly rounded corners of the track, but for what we're doing, this is working. Like I said, I was creating this last night, wanting to get it done, so it probably took maybe a half hour, maybe 45 minutes by the time I had to make the horse sprites, and find a few audio files for the sound. So layer 1 is the grass that surrounds the track. Layer 2 looks kind of weird. Layer 2 is our finish line, and also a background to some text. I should move that to a different layer, but anyway, it just is here. The text we were using, some of the letters were kind of hard to read, so I just made a black rectangle, lower the opacity of it to do that. Pretty easy. This is where we start actually seeing the things for the game. Layer 3. This is our 5 horses that are on there. Each horse I gave a solid behavior, but it's not really used, and I gave a bullet behavior. And when I double click on this, sorry, each horse consists of 2 frames, you know, and the speed is just 10 frames per second for the animation. Pretty simple. The only difference between them, it's the same horse. I just used the paint bucket to change the color of the saddle or whatever on the back of the horse to make them identifiable, and to do it in an easy fashion since I was pressed for time. Yeah. The next one we have on here is layer 4. These are the waypoints. I'll explain more about those later. These are actually, during the game on layer 4, is I will go to opacity here for this layer, and I'm going to enter it in as 0, and it hides all of those, but they're still there, just not visible. And then last but not least, layer 5, we have our text on here. Little design no, I used impact. Probably when I go back and change this, I'll find some kind of a pixel style font to match the style of the game. But this is what we have to get started on this. The finish line, I should mention this. I have finish 2 and finish 1. Finish 2 is always there. Finish is not there. It's not visible until later, and I'll explain more of that when we look at the code. Okay, so I'm going to click save here and save our progress. I made the window be the same size as the layout, so it just shows the whole track the whole time for this first version of the game. Now I'm going to go here to my event sheet, and here's what we have. I have a global number of place which is equal to 0, and that's going to help us determine which horse finishes, and so it can display what number of order that they finished. Here's the horse's artificial intelligence, and it's not really. There is a path finding behavior, and I had some troubles getting multiple horses to do the same pathfinding behavior. And so I was having my first trial, a horse would detect on the start of the layout, it would detect a obstacle, and then it would aim the coordinates toward that obstacle, and then it would move along that path. Then once I got there, it would go to the next one. That way the horses could kind of navigate around each other because they were all going to have solid behaviors. And I thought that would be kind of a cool thing. But for some reason, and I don't know, it was getting late, and I didn't want to mess around with it too much, so the first horse would do it. The other ones wouldn't. So after trying to troubleshoot that a little bit, I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to leave the waypoints, and I'm going to have the horses give a bullet behavior. And on the start of the layout, the horse family, all of the horses are included into a family in projects there with the paid version of Construct. You can do that. It saves you a lot of code. Instead of having to give instances of every horse doing something, I could just say anytime a horse in the horse fam encounters this behavior, then it'll behave a certain way. So on the start of the layout, the hidden finish 1 that I showed you earlier, it's invisible. And I'm going to set the horses, all the horses, to be pointed towards waypoint 1.x and waypoint 1.y. So it's going to aim it at that first waypoint. The bullet behavior allows you to have a constant movement to that sprite or to that image that you gave the bullet behavior to. You can change the acceleration in that, but it's always going to be moving in a certain direction at a certain speed until you tell it to otherwise. So on here I put, after that on start a layout, then on here I have, and for the horse artificial intelligence, any horse fan that collides with waypoint 1, it's then going to set the angle to waypoint 2. And then anytime it collides with waypoint 2, it's going to be aimed at waypoint 3 and so forth. So you can kind of see that pattern there. When we get here to waypoint 6, I have the finish line set to visible. And then once we go to waypoint 7, then it gets angled towards finish. Alright, so it moves around the track. The reason why I had to do that is because the way this track is, here's where the horses lined up, and pretty soon, they'd finish the finish line, cross the finish line before they go all the way around, where they start off the horses at the actual Kentucky Derby. So I have this little part up here invisible, and then once it gets over here wherever waypoint 6 was, then this becomes visible again. We don't see it because it's underneath the entire finish line, and then it can collide with that as the horses are finishing at the same point on the track, if that makes sense. So that's how the horses navigate. Now if every horse was the same speed, that would be pretty boring because it'd be a tie. And if every horse, if there was always a fast horse or always a slow horse, that would get kind of boring. So I wanted to have some kind of a way to simulate the horse's speed and stamina. The best part of the race is some start off early, some will gain a lot of speed and then slow down again. Some start off slow and finish strong. I wanted to have that kind of excitement emulated with this game. So here in this section of the code where it says horse speed and stamina, I have a code for each of the horses on this one. I had to, so that they would all act differently. So here, and I have this, this is happening whenever the post song is not playing. Otherwise they would be changing their speed at the start of the race, which I'll talk about here in a second. So I have in an instance between random seconds between 1 and 5, horse 1 is set its bullet speed to random between 25 and 100. So it could be 1 second, it's going to change the speed. It could be 1 second again later, and it's going to change the speed. Or it could be up to 5. So every random occurrence between 1 and 5 seconds, it's going to have, which gives you a little bit of variability on how it's moving there. But then also where we have the bullet speed has 75, main difference between the speed that it could move. So that gives you a lot of changes between the horse there. Now if I wanted to have one horse maybe be a little faster, I could say, oh, maybe this one, the random is going to be between 50 and 100, or between 50 and 150. But I gave them all the same range, so that way one can't get too much faster than the rest, and it could by design be a relatively close, for the most part, race. And then you can play around with those, with those variables to kind of get the kind of race you want. So then I did that same thing for the other 4 horses, horse 1 through 5. So that's how we have their speeds changed throughout the race. Down here at the end, we have race start. So on the start of layout, it's going to play that trumpet song. Dun, 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 dun. That's going to be the first thing. And so I want these horses to be still while that's going on. So that's why these only change their speed while that song is not playing. So at the start of the layout, they're not moving. Then it's done. Then it's going to randomly generate. I have them waiting for 25 seconds, or roughly the length of the song on there, until the the game is ready. And then I have the horses set their bullet speed to whatever random speed that, the same range that these are. And then I also have them after that set the angle towards waypoint 1.x and waypoint 1.y. I do have that also up here, so to make this more efficient, I would take one of those out later. I would probably take this one up here out to do it, to be honest. Alright, the last part is I wanted to have something where it showed the horses which one finished. If it was a close race, who finished first, and so forth. So going back up here to the top, global number, or global variable, I have place is equal to 0. Alright, and then down here I have when any horse of the horse family is on collision with the finish sprite that becomes visible after they make it to waypoint 6, then the horse is destroyed. That sprite is off the map. Okay, it's off the screen. And then down here I have when horse 1 on destroyed, it's going to add 1 to place, and it's going to append the text that said the horse 1's name, and it's going to add place plus 1 at the end of it. So if there was 0, if none of them collided into it, and this is the first one, it collides, that horse is destroyed. And so it's going to add 1 to place in its first place. If there were 3 horses that finished before it, then we would have had 3 horses destroyed, and so therefore place would equal 3, and then when this horse collided, it would add another one, 4, and it would put a 4 after it. So that way it's just kind of keeping the places that way. And then at the end we have stop all for this on here. Did I mention earlier? So I did have the song on there. Okay. And then also on here someplace. Oh, here we go. Also on start of layout, after 6 seconds, once the horses are starting to move, I have a stampede sound playing as well. So that's down here. I should move this. That's actually not a very good place for it if I want to be organized. So I'm going to put that up here with race start. And then down here I'll just leave this. Once place is equal to 5, or in other words, once the last horse collides with the finish line and is destroyed, then all the sounds stop. That simulates the end of the race. So that is how this game is designed to work. So what I'm going to do now is go back to our main screen, and we are going to give this a test so you can kind of see this game in action. The sound is really loud, so sorry if it's blaring into your ears. But they made it to their first waypoint. We're now to the finish line, and nothing happens because the finish line is invisible there. Alright, now they make it to the next waypoint. You can see how each horse speeds up and slows down at different intervals at different speeds. Something to make the game a little better. Obviously, not having the horses overlap each other, having them work their way around the group would make the game a little better. But at least we have a start of a simulation that we can play around with. Oh, they're picking up the pace. I spit milk out my nose is in the lead. But raining on my wedding day, Doesn't want to be last. This is a close one. Sometimes you get the horses all get a little bit of a lead, but this is a really close race. Leftovers in the fridge, making a move. Oh. Okay, so now you can see here a 1 went there once he collided with the finish line. Alright, so that was actually the slow, or the, I mean it was slow, but it was the closest race that I've had on here. But then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's that. So as I go to work on this game more, you know, I'd like to add some reining effects. I'd like there to be some where the horses have to move around each other, figure out and take some time for that pathfinding portion of this, and then also, you know, change the typeface and make the track a little better. Maybe put a crowd in there, and then also I would like to have this roster here have these, you know, where leftovers in the fridge would show up first on the roster, and then have these in number order. But this is just kind of a simple way to, you know, have some kind of a randomly generated race. It could be used for other things too, but I have a long way to go for it to get it kind of to where I want. But it was kind of fun to play around with and share with friends and family online, so they could see it and kind of have a little simulated Kentucky Derby today for this. So hopefully that was kind of interesting and had some useful things, and maybe get you encouraged into looking into the Construct program and finding ways to do some simple game design, and seeing what else you can create with it. And thanks for watching, and have a great evening.